Hello, I'm State Representative Jim Buchy from the 84th House District. Welcome to Ohio in Focus.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Ohio in Focus, a program that brings state government to you. I'm Brad Miller, and I'm pleased to be joined today by State Representative Jim Buchy, who serves the 84th House District, which includes all of Mercer County and parts of Audelaize, Darke, and Shelby counties. Representative, as always, good to see you again.
Well, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time we're talking about. It's nice to be here, Brad.
We're going to touch on a few topics, as we always do. We're going to start with an issue that has really impacted the agricultural community, which your district obviously is very involved with, and that is the avian flu. The state has banned all poultry shows throughout the state for the remainder of this year. Can you kind of talk about how this issue is impacting agriculture and other rural areas?
Well, of course, the poultry industry is a $2.3 billion industry, and what it means to Ohio is significant. And currently in the 84th House District, we have millions of laying hens and turkeys. And so if this avian flu were to hit that area, it would be devastation for a year and a half, 2 years, and it would ripple out into the entire economy, just not the birds. It would cause a tremendous upheaval in the economy of West Central Ohio, which is the best in the state.
And there, at least to this day, there has not been any reported cases of the avian flu in Ohio, but very much a precautionary measure, as other states have seen some issues. There's also been some stories about how egg prices could be on the rise as well.
Well, egg prices are on the rise because out west there have been millions and millions of birds that have succumbed to this disease, and there is no vaccine for it. There's no medicine that cures it. And of course this is carried by wildfowl, and they don't get the disease, but they spread it to the feathered friends. And so we're very conscious about it, and I commend the farmers who have poultry because they've taken extra precautionary measures, both in time and resources, to increase the biosecurity to keep it out. And of course, one of the things that helps this disease is heat. So hopefully hot weather will help suppress that disease as well. So we're praying very hard that it doesn't happen in Western Ohio or in Ohio and cause the damage that it has out west.
We've heard in recent years the term bird flu has been flown around, no pun intended. But can you talk about, is this very similar to that, or are there differences between the avian flu and what we've been familiar with in the past?
Sure. The big difference is the avian flu that we're experiencing now is not zoonotic. It does not go to humans. The bird flu several years ago did. And that's the big difference, and that is good because we don't need human illness on top of it. But there are no recorded cases of this strain of avian flu that has affected humans.
We'll move on. Another issue that has been in the news of late has been a potential ballot issue coming up this November regarding the potential legalization of marijuana. We won't talk about that today, but one other issue that has arisen from that is the potential for monopolies to arise from that. Can you talk about the harmfulness of potential monopolies here in Ohio?
Sure. Well, I think our forefathers didn't intend the Constitution to be used from a parochial standpoint, and we've had a constitutional amendment that has passed to create casinos. Well, there's only 4 casinos that are allowed. If anybody wants to go into casino business, it'll have to be through a constitutional amendment. So we want to stop parochial constitutional amendments that just favor one entity and not everybody. So that's the issue, and we don't want the monopolies, as you have indicated. What we want is a balanced playing field for everybody as it relates to the constitutional amendment, and we are obviously trying to address this from a legislative and amendment standpoint to make sure that in the future we won't have a monopolistic situation.
So certainly these discussions have been going on. Is there anything specific the state legislature is doing, or is this still in the early process?
No, there's definitely work being done to come up with a ballot issue to make sure that in the future we wouldn't have proprietary constitutional amendments.
We'll move on to another situation that has really devastated the state of Ohio, one that the legislature and the governor has been very active in addressing, and that is opioid abuse, drug overdoses from prescription medications and so forth. We've talked to other members here in the House. Representative Robert Sprague has been very active in this as well from Northwest Ohio. So things are being done. Can you talk about how this has impacted your district from a local perspective, and in particular, I know you've talked about Darke County.
I have, yes. Well, through the efforts of the Darke County Chamber of Commerce 3 or 4 years ago, putting together a group of people that are all connected to or have interest in the drug situation, drug overdoses, heroin, and so on. They put together a working group, and I'm talking judges and lawyers and medical professionals and hospital coordinators. I mean, the ODJFS folks, everybody that has exposure to drug usage. And so one of the things that they came up with from the ground up was an opportunity as an option to allow medical professionals to, once they know they're dealing with a person that has a drug overdose or is a habitual user, that they have the option to report to mental health professionals to try to get that person some help. And we were very careful in crafting this legislation so that we would not harm the doctor-patient confidentiality and relationship. So, but it's just another, I mean, these working groups that are concerned and focused on how do we drop the demand for drugs has all been very helpful. And so I applaud all the efforts that are being made in every county, and I specifically am very, very happy and proud of the work that has been invested in West Central Ohio to address this very, very difficult issue.
Much of the effort in fighting this has involved increasing communication between state officials, local officials, those who are addicted. Can you talk about the importance of just increasing communication? And certainly this issue has gained more attention, which is a good thing, to raise awareness that this is even a problem in the first place. But can you talk about the importance of that?
Well, the first thing that's very important is for parents to teach their children that drugs are evil. And because the more we encourage young people, for that matter everybody, that they don't want to be drug users, that's a start, because we know that when children look to their parents and their peers and their grandparents and so on, and they find out that drug usage is not good for them, 50% of them will not try drugs. So right away, if you reduce the demand and reduce the pool of people who may be future drug users, then that's a step in the right direction. This is a frontal assault. Everybody has to be communicating with everybody to encourage people to get a natural high instead of a drug high.
And I know we've discussed this in the past, but we'll close with it this time. If a family is not within an immediate range of someone they know being addicted to drugs, it might be easy to think that the problem is over there and not next door. But one thing that's really come up is the fact that this really does impact the whole state, not just urban or rural. Can you touch on that?
Yes, no question. It touches all 88 counties. It touches all economic spheres of the population, and it's just incumbent upon all of us to work together, to communicate, and to do everything we can to help people not use drugs, and for those that are using drugs, help give them the incentive to discontinue the practice.
And we'll close by discussing the state budget, something we've been talking about on this program for several months because it is the first 6 months of the year are very active working with the state budget. One of the final steps before the governor signs the budget is for the House and Senate to engage in what is called the conference committee. Can you talk about or explain to the viewers back home what the conference committee is?
Sure. Well, the conference committee is a result of the two houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate, not agreeing upon the language that has passed both those houses. So the conference committee is comprised of 3 House members and 3 Senate members, 2 from the majority party and 1 from the minority party, and those 6 people sit down and they review and work out the differences between the differences of the 2 houses. In other words, everything that has passed both houses in the same identical language, that's off the table. What they focus on are the differences between the 2 houses, and those 6 people negotiate and work out agreements on those issues that aren't on the same page, and then once they get agreement on everything in the budget, then it takes 4 votes of the 6 to pass out what is called the conference report, so that when they do pass out the conference report, it then goes back to each house for an up or down vote on the conference report. And assuming that they come up with a report and a majority of that conference committee, and then a majority votes for it in the House and the Senate, at that point it is sent to the governor for his signature.
And this isn't just something that happens with the budget. This can happen with any piece of legislation.
Yes, sir.
But since the budget is such a large bill, it almost always, or probably always, goes to, you've worked on a few budgets in your time here.
This is my 12th budget that I've been involved in.
And all of them have included conference committees.
Yes, yeah, that's standard operating procedure around here. And it doesn't make any difference if the legislature is controlled by one party or if one party controls the House, other controls the Senate. It doesn't make any difference who's in charge. They never agree once the budget is passed each House. So it's conference committees in place.
It has been signed into law by Governor Kasich. Can you talk about some of the highlights, some of the things that you've worked on and have gotten passed in this budget?
Well, obviously, the taxes have been lowered. Personal income taxes have been lowered again. The object, of course, is to put more money in your pocket, in mine. We're better prepared to handle money than any government entity is. So, and the budget has contained the provisions that are going to supply the major services that are responsibility of state government, and funding for schools is secure. I believe no schools are going to get less than they got last year. So that gives them predictability and continuity for the next 2 years. And during this budget, there's just many provisions that are in there that are helpful to the operation of state government. And so I'm very happy and proud of this budget that we've passed.
We have a couple minutes left. As you know, we've done this enough times. We close the program by asking our guests to share with their constituents back home how they can best reach you here in Columbus.
Well, if you, by phone, of course, it's area code 614-466-6344. If you want to email me, it's rep84@ohiohouse.gov. And then, as always, we appreciate the number of listeners and viewers to fill out the survey again. We like to know what's on your mind as it relates to the issues we're dealing with. So you can do that at tinyurl.com/Buchy July 2015. Let us know what you think.
And that information is at the bottom of the screen. Representative, as always, thanks for sitting down with us.
Thanks, Brad. Thanks for having me again.
And we look forward to seeing you again on the next edition of Ohio in Focus, a program that brings state government to you. Thanks for watching.